In this video, I'm going to be taking this Ice Planet minifigure and I'm going to be building a giant mech for it, including weapons, a mech hangar, and even a spaceship for the trusty penguin sidekick. Let's take a look at what we have to work with and get started with the build. At the beginning of May, LEGO released a Space CMF with 12 highly detailed minifigures. One of these was the Ice Planet minifigure, which is a callback to the old theme from 30 years ago. Ice Planet 2002 is a LEGO theme that was released in 1993 that features some pretty unique looking LEGO sets. The vehicles and minifigures featured blue, white, and trans neon orange colors, so I'll be working with those colors as I design the mech I'm building. Trans neon orange isn't in production anymore, unfortunately, so I'll be substituting in the much more regularly available trans orange color instead for this build. The first thing to start with is the helmet. I've actually only tried my hand at designing the head for a mech one time in the past, since I usually resort to using an enclosed cockpit for my mechs. I've been building Gundam plastic model kits recently, and I've been inspired by the way that these mechs are designed with their detailed heads, unique weapons, and posability. I'll start by taking some snot bricks and attaching a modified plate and ball joint to the top so we can create an attachment point for the head to connect to the body. This plate on the front will allow us to add some facial features in just a moment here, and I'll add a graded slope to the top of the head for some texture. I'll use some wedge plates to add shaping to the sides of the head, a few greebling pieces for more detail, and this bar connected piece to create an antenna for communications. I'm using the exact same design for the opposite side of the head, and now we can finish up with the face. I'll add some jumper plates to position the eyes at the right height, and a trans orange plate with a grill on top to create a visor look that I want to go for. Lastly, I'll attach a slope piece at the bottom, and that completes the head. I think this looks like a stylized variation of the minifigure version, and this back piece will be covered by the neck, so I think I'm ready to move on to the body of the mech. I'm using this Ninjago mech as the base frame for this build, but I want to make some significant changes right from the beginning. The torso has an angled stance at the hips, so I'll start by straightening it out to have the mech stand taller. The original mech was a little too skinny at the top, so I rebuilt the shoulder area to add some more width to it. I'll attach some plates to the back and tiles to the sides to cover up the gaps where you can see the Technic frame. I want to make the shoulders even larger, so I'll attach a row of snot bricks and lock them in place with some plates. I'll add an assembly with some clips where we can attach the head later, and now I want to finish this area by covering all the studs. This is easily accomplished by attaching some smaller slopes along with a few ball joints where I'll snap on some shoulder armor in a bit. Over to the back side of the torso, I'll taper off the shoulders with a couple of inverted slopes and attach a back plate with a bracket. This will be the perfect spot to mount the penguin ship as a backpack for the mech. I'll use some jumper plates and slopes to lock everything else together down to the lower back and add a bar to clip some waist armor on after we get the legs attached. I want to cover all sides of the waist with armor plating, so I'll add a few more clips to the front and sides of the torso so everything is ready to go. The transition from upper to lower torso is a little bit blocky, so I attached some slopes together to use over the gap to create a more natural taper. The front of the abdominal area has a lot of studs showing, so I'll add some tiles and wedges to clean things up a little bit. Next, I'll place a trans orange slope in the center to act as a power core for the mech. Moving up to the chest area, I'll use various plates and slopes to bulk up and shape the cockpit to keep the mech pilot protected in battle. I'll use a bracket piece to mount the control panel in place for the pilot and close everything off with some angled bricks to create the chest plate. Lastly, I'll attach the neck bracket to the top and set everything off to the side while I work on building the legs. Starting with the feet, I'll be using both a ball and socket right next to each other so I can create a stable but posable ankle joint. I'll lock things together with some wedges and tiles and wrap around the back of the heel with some slopes. I want the feet to have some grip, so I'll add a Technic brick with these rubber pieces to create friction so the feet don't slide apart. I also want the front of the feet to be pretty wide for better stability, so I'll attach some more snot bricks and plates. Now that the basic structure is set, I can clean up everything with some tiles and slopes to add some nice shaping to the outside of the foot. This also locks everything together so we don't have to worry about the foot falling apart at any point. Lastly, I'll place some white slopes on the front and the foot is complete. For the ankle support, I'll be using some older Bionicle pieces to add stability. This piston support will attach to the back of the lower leg to make sure the mech doesn't fall over under its own weight. I'll be using the original internal structure for the lower leg from the Ninjago mech, and then I'll snap on some brackets and slopes to bulk up the calf area. I'm using a ridged plate for the front of the ankle to add some armored protection, and then I'll place some slopes on the front of the ankle to round things off leading up to the knee. The blue wedge bricks will also help shape the front of the knee, and I'll use some wedges and tiles to cover the rest of the studs on the outside of the calf. I built a large armored plate for the knee with wedges, tiles, and ingots, which will easily attach to these clips right here. Now I can attach the foot to the lower leg. This piston joint is really sturdy and makes for some nice posability options. I'm leaving the upper part of the leg largely unchanged since it's going to be covered by armor plating on all sides anyways once we get everything assembled. Once connected to the lower leg, I can attach the knee armor plate, build a second leg, and get both of them connected to the body of the mech. I built a number of different pieces of armor to cover the waist area of the mech so we can finally get those connected now that the legs are finished. Moving on to the arms, I'm keeping the same assembly from the original build for the upper arm since it's simple and is going to be covered by the shoulder armor. The lower arm uses a combination of bricks and brackets for the internal structure. I'll start with some simple slopes to cover the underside of the forearm, and I'll use a combination of ingots and tiles to add some texture and color to the arm with white graded slopes for the elbow. On the outer forearm, I'll round everything off with slopes. Having the elbow connected at this angle will allow for some great posing options. Lastly, the hands are built using bar and clip pieces with animal horns for the fingertips. I'll add some armor plating to the back of the hand with various slopes and tiles. With the hand connected, the arm is complete and can be attached to the body. I built a mirrored version of the arm for the other side and popped it into place. The next thing to build is some large shoulder armor to cover up these ugly joints and add some protection. I found these large white windshield pieces on a random Bricklink store a while ago, and I think that they will work perfectly for what I'm trying to accomplish here. I'll build up a small assembly to convert the attachment points to be compatible and extend the armor out a little further. These shoulders attach to ball joints which allow for them to be posed at any angle. I think these look pretty great. Now that the rest of the mech is done, we can attach the head and move on to building some fun weapons and accessories. The first accessory I want to build is a large shield. I'll start by making a Technic handle that can connect to the mech's hand with an axle piece. I'll use these Technic panels to create the shield, and another large flat piece to cover the gap between the panels so things look a little bit more uniform. Before we get this attached to the mech, I want to build a spaceship for the small penguin that comes along with the Ice Planet minifigure. I'll need to go grab a few more of these guys before I get to building because I also want to make a hangar for the mech that will need some Ice Planet minifigures and penguins on staff. I decided to make a quick trip to Bricks and Minifigs Grand Rapids, who have kindly offered to sponsor this video. I go to this store to pick up LEGO for just about every video I make, and I'm always impressed by the variety of LEGO sets and minifigures they have available in stock. If you're looking for used LEGO sets, bulk bricks for your own projects, or even an obscure minifigure that hasn't been in production for a long time, you can find all of these things and more in the store. Thanks to Bricks and Minifigs Grand Rapids for sponsoring this video, and make sure you stop by often to catch the new things being added to shelves every day. Now that I've got all of these ready to go, let's get started on the penguin ship. The underside of the ship is going to attach to the back of the mech using a bracket piece. I want to make something that is kind of shaped like the head of a penguin, so I'll use round plates and some wedges to start the basic outline. I'll connect these two sections together and move on to building the top of the ship. Slopes and wedges work well to shape the front of the ship. I'll build out the middle section using clips and bars so that we have somewhere to attach the wings later on, and I'll cap it off with the same round plates that I used for the bottom. I want to make a rounded cockpit for the penguin, so I grabbed some rounded white slopes and curved gray bricks to create the enclosure. The penguin will fit perfectly in the center here with the use of a circled jumper plate. I'll connect the nose of the body of the ship with these pieces, and then I'll add retractable landing gear with some skis to the underside. I'll be using these blue wing pieces and a rounded windshield piece to top everything off with the penguin securely inside. The wings can be opened up when the ship is mounted on the mech to upgrade its mobility in combat. I'm really happy with how this little ship turned out, and I think the penguin is the perfect sidekick to the Ice Planet mech. The final accessory we need to build for the mech is a large chainsaw similar to the one from the original figure, but even cooler. I started by creating the internal structure of the weapon with a large light bar running through the middle. I'll add a row of snot bricks to both sides so we can add more details in a minute here. I want the front of the chainsaw to be rounded off toward the blade, so I'll build up some rows of curved slopes. I finished up the area around the bottom of the blade and added some blue accent pieces to the top and the bottom. At the tip of the weapon, I attached some blaster barrels so it can double as a gun if needed. I'll build some angle sections of wedges and ingots around the top to tie everything together, and then I'll cover the snot bricks on the side with some blue grills for a pop of color. To cover the anti-stud side of the weapon, I'll attach a bunch of these round plates, and then I'll cover the final exposed studs with some white rounded plates and gray dots. I'm using trans orange slopes and plates to create the blade of the weapon, which should light up really nicely once this gets plugged in. The handle is the final part of the weapon that needs to be completed, which I'll build with some rounded bricks and Technic axles. I can finally get both of these weapons attached to the mech, but for the final setup, I want to build a mech hanger real quick. I'm keeping this build simple using a 48 by 48 gray base plate as the bottom layer. I'm leaving plenty of gaps under the base so I can run all of the necessary wires for my lighting from place to place. I'll use dark and light bluish gray tiles to smooth everything out, and then I'll build a few tall light posts to illuminate the mech. At the top of the rear scaffolding, I'll create a platform for the minifigures to look down on the mech as they're moving around the hangar. This also makes for another great spot to mount more lights. Since this is an Ice Planet build, I added some small snow piles to the floor of the hangar. I also built a small gaming kiosk for the penguins to play the Bionicle game while they're on break. After placing all the other minifigures in the build, I think we're ready to add in the mech and see how everything turned out. This is definitely my most detailed mech that I've made up until this point. I'm happy with how the proportions turned out, and I'm excited that I was able to include some fun lighting. I think it really elevates things. I was able to take this build to a convention recently, and I think that the lighting also really helped it to stand out there. Let me know what kinds of mechs you want to see me build next. I'm definitely open to suggestions. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and check out the second channel linked down below if you haven't had a chance to head over there yet. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good one.